we finally get to finish things up, and at least that's my goal. We should be able to do that. This is once again the page for um, Power Assertive, where we finished up last time. The third type of rapist that we'll talk about, and then the fourth and final is going to be sadistic rapists. So let's go ahead and cover some of that. So it is a little bit different, obviously, and I hate to use the term interesting, but intriguing, I guess. But so biggest key here, the sexuality, basically that person's sexuality and what really gets them going has some type of fuse or fusion with um, actually being aggressive towards another individual. And aggression also leads into torture, into seeing pain and humiliation, um, and just getting to whether it be from verbal cues from another person, screaming, whether it be the look of sheer terror, um, anything along those lines. That is what actually gets the sadistic rapist excited. Um, yeah, they do, get sexual gratification from it, but the sex, if you want to think about it that way, that they are having, any sexual contact with this person, the idea of the act itself of just simply having sex isn't what is getting them truly excited. It's the fact that they are seeing this torture and this uh, horror that they are that the victim is experiencing. Um, that is really what's getting them excited. So, um, it's the aggression of it. It's the um, ability to make someone elicit those kind of feelings of fear and terror. That is what is getting this person aroused. Okay. As you can read here, sexual gratification via mental and physical pain and suffering. Something I want to point out with prolonged. So almost all these other things that we've talked about, especially the first two types of rape. Okay, we talked about anger, retaliation, power, reassurance. They tend to be shorter in length or in duration. Um, Now, I'm not going to go to a whole review of each of them, but just remember those are typically shorter encounters and rapes. But then you get into that, like we talked about before, the power assertive rapist. It's not, it's a little bit longer just because of the nature of it, of being dominant over someone and how that excites them. Okay. But the sadistic rapist is one that wants to, if they can prolong it for a long time, that's good for them. Um, Now, we've had individuals who have kept, females especially, but they've kept victims for months and even years, um, and didn't kill them. But they got found out because, well, for example, a serial rapist that would have been in our time. Unfortunately, I don't remember his name or their name, but there was an incident in Ohio when those girls who had been abducted, years before, when they were young, had been essentially kept in a basement of a guy in Ohio. He had repeatedly raped them, um, and then he ended up burying, some of them buried children for him, all that kind of stuff. Now, granted, he wasn't sadistic in the fact of some of the things that we're going to talk about with sadistic rapist. But what I wanted to get across there was the purpose of keeping them and prolonging this idea of whether it be one active rape or um, a prolonged period where you can keep someone basically as prisoner and continuing to rape them repeatedly. Okay, that's kind of what we're talking about. Or in this case, with sadistic rape, it's not just the rape part that they get excited about. It's the torture of that particular individual is what they're really focused on more so. Okay. Opportunistic, they have a plan for what they want to do once they have someone, but they don't necessarily have a plan on how to get the individual. That's the idea of the sadistic rapist. Like I said, how they plan things out. It's more so a process of what they plan to do once they have a potential victim, not a plan on how to get that victim per se. Um, so they tend to have antisocial personalities, which is not surprising because they don't really. Obviously, if someone had any type of normal social personality, they wouldn't want to experience other people being in pain, but these people enjoy it. These people enjoy other people's suffering, whether it be, like I said, mental anguish or actual physical pain. Um, Many of them themselves suffered from physical abuse, um, have evidence of sexual deviance, and a lot of them had some juvenile issues, as like sexual issues and things like that. Um, and they had excessive masturbation, basically a strange up, I don't call it upbringing, that's not really correct, but um, unique experience in childhood in that sense. But either way, like I said, the sadistic part of it takes over. These people, just like some people we've talked about before, just like the power assertive rapists, or even the um, anger retaliation, they can be married. And in fact, a lot of sadistic rapists end up being married and having a different personality at home, in essence, middle class type of lifestyle. And strangely enough, sadistic um, rapists tend to be uh, a little bit above average in intelligence. Not a lot, because whatever, but they are a little bit higher in intelligence. Um, they like to stalk their victims. Um, take their victims once they get them from one place to wherever they're going to commit these acts, away from other people, because they do have a plan. They have a place to go, um, and a number of places it could be. But in essence, an abandoned place. It could be some place where no one else is going to know where they're there. Um, so either way, um, but the individual is usually intelligent enough to stay out of trouble with the police, for example. Um, and like it says here, usually involves bondage, torture, and the bizarre. Um, just you name anything that would be strange, anything that could cause pain. That would be part of it. Part of their rape may include putting, in essence, sharp objects up into the vagina or anus of the victim. Um, that's that's occurred before. Um, they also, they may have their own little ritual that they try to do. Their own script, their own. But it's usually more of a ritual to them. It's not script like we had with your power reassurance type. Um, they like to, like I said, the violence. They also will tend to have their own rape kit. Going back to Ted Bundy, he had his own rape kit, even though he did ultimately murder people. He had his own little kit, so he would fit into the sadistic side of if you wanted to categorize him as a rapist, if prior to actually committing the acts of murder, he would fall into this category of sadistic rape. um, and a lot of those, and this is what you're going to find out, is there are a lot of these people who fit into the category of sadistic rapist initially, and then they ended up murdering people as a progression. So therefore, they became, obviously serial killers rather than just serial rapists. Had he not killed, Jeffrey Dahmer would also be a serial, like a sadistic rapist. Excuse me. Even though he was unique in the fact that he went outside of his race. So, and also most of his victims were males. So that's a little different there, but nonetheless, it still counts. Um, So yeah, that's essentially. I'm trying to think anything else that you guys need to know about sadistic rapist. Um, a lot of them are going to be a little bit. I say a little bit older. What I mean by that is they will be of the different type of rapists. They will usually be a little bit older, so they'll be like in their 30s, sometimes early 40s, but start at least in their 30s. That's kind of like their range there um, when they actually commit these acts. Remember, I said earlier that a lot of rapists are going to be younger, like in their 20s or whatever. Well, sadistic rapists tend to be more so in their, like I said, 30s. Um, and let's see here. A lot of them were raised in a sexually deviant home, which basically had no filter, uh, exposed a lot to porn, which eventually led to violent porn. Um, Very compulsive personalities, and jobs they like to pick, white collar type of jobs. So just be aware of some of those. So I hope that helps. Um, but they do like to use, like I said, I mentioned this earlier, bondage, torture. They'll use gags, things like that, um, handcuffs, you name it. So anything to where they can have control over someone or cause someone mental, physical distress and pain. So, and they will want to prolong that as best as long as they can. So, even though they do get sexually excited by it and can ejaculate, they will try to hold that off because they enjoy the whole process of being sadistic and experiencing that with people. So, that being said, I hope that helps, and you guys have a good evening. I will talk to you soon. Be ready for your upcoming quizzes, and just keep up the work. You got your presentation coming up. Finish that, and just stick it out. Let's keep going.